Hi, and welcome to the Friday Fresh podcast. I'm your host, Nali Wafula, and today we have a guest. Her name is Nina Ogot. She's a singer, songwriter, and polyglot. Nina recently released her album Ukumbu.ke or Ukumbuke, and we have her on the show to just tell us a little about herself and her music. So welcome to Friday Fresh, Nina.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself, or my introduction was...
I think it's sufficient for me.
Sufficient.
Yeah.
Great. So when did you fall in love with music?
Okay, so my musical journey started as a child. I at first wanted to play the piano and started with piano lessons. And then later in my teenage, it evolved into the guitar. And then in my young adulthood, when I made the decision to become a professional musician, I picked up the guitar as my main instrument. Yeah.
Interesting. And what did you grow up listening to?
You know, when I was growing up on radio, we only heard a lot of American pop music. And there was some traditional music as well, which we learned in school. But the influence was majorly American pop. And it's only up until my adulthood when I wanted to make music as a professional and was looking for my direction as an artist that I started to venture more and to research more about what was Kenyan, what was the Kenyan sound. And so my listening has evolved more into what is more authentically Kenyan and from American pop. Yeah.
Okay. And have your parents always supported your musical aspirations? Because we all know how African parents can be about the arts.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those few lucky people because my parents were always open. And the minute I said I wanted to play music, I found myself playing the piano, and it happened really quickly. So there's no delay or no questions. And another thing is most parents maybe don't allow their children to pursue music because they see it as an investment. Like if we start making music now and paying for your music classes, and then in the end you don't even use it, you know, so it's why invest in something that you're most likely never going to use. And even now I hear a lot of parents complain. They tell their kids, you know, I invested in your ballet lessons, I invested in your basketball, and you never ever use, you know. So I was lucky that to some degree my parents didn't put that pressure and just went for it.
And let you explore all the different
Exactly.
things. So you also speak 4 languages. That's why I introduced you as a polyglot.
I hear you.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I speak English, of course. I learned French in high school, and then I lived in France for 4 years. So I speak fluent French. I speak Toluo and some Kiswahili. My Kiswahili could be better, you know, given that I come from Kenya, but I do speak Kiswahili as well.
Yeah, and write in Kiswahili as well.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. So what's the inspiration of this new album, and how does it differ from your past albums?
This album, I would say, generally when I write music, I don't write with the focus of writing an album. The attention is on the piece itself. And so it's just, each album is a collection of pieces, and in the end you look at it and say, what do they have in common? What is the theme? So same approach with this album. I never really started thinking I'm going to write an album. It developed into one. And the underlying theme is memories, because I was drawing a lot. I realized in each and every song, I was drawing from my memories. Childhood, but even more recent, my recent past, even just up until COVID. And I was using instrumentation that I remembered as a child, a bass line. It can just be a bass line. It's from films that I remember when I was in my early 20s or early 30s. It's from traditional songs that I learned in primary school. It's things like that. So it's Ukumbu means memories in Kiswahili, and .ke stands for this modern day.
Yeah.
So it's me taking my memories into now.
Amazing. I like that.
Thank you.
I noticed you also used, you redid some songs from your first album, Nairobi. What made you feel like you want to do these songs slightly differently again?
Yes, because the inspiration first was memories. What are the memories that I have? And I thought it would be nice to remember some of my albums, because it's been 4 albums now. And there's some songs that were recorded in a very modest way, you know, just acoustic. I remember you from that time even, because you've been really there from the beginning. So this was an acoustic sound, and now that the sound has evolved into a larger one, I felt it would be nice to remember these old songs also.
Yeah. I love those songs.
Thank you.
So what do you think Kenyan musicians need to know about performing in international festivals and stages? You just came back from a trip, of course, performing in what country was that?
Germany, Austria, and this round we go to Belgium as well.
Yeah, so what do you think Kenyan musicians, especially the upcoming ones, need to know about getting to that level of being invited to these stages and festivals in other countries?
I think number one thing that I have observed is use of culture. I have not seen any act up until now, unless they're specifically doing, let's say, American pop music or R&B. But most artists, even when they do that, they infuse culture into their music. Nobody ever has said, I leave my culture behind because it's outdated or it's redundant or it's not useful. They always think it's useful, and they always think it gives them an edge. So one thing that I would encourage Kenyans is to look at their culture as an asset, not something that they should dispose of, but something that they can use as an edge for them. And the other thing is quality, because here, our industry is, I would say, underdeveloped in comparison to, say, the South African industry or Nigerian industry. So rehearsals, development of content, stages where you can perform and develop this content, bookers, talent management, all these things are fundamental to developing an artist and uplifting the quality. So our quality at the moment, I feel, needs a facelift. But even with what we have, if you inject a little culture, a little authenticity, then you can still find yourself at the festival.
And how has that experience been for you? Was it like something that happened slowly, or was it something that just happened suddenly and you found yourself, being invited to these festivals?
I think most of it is intentional. Nothing ever just happens. It would be nice if you just slept and then it was just happening. That's the dream.
Yeah, it's a dream.
This is intentional work, you go out there and sell yourself, and you need a group of people who also believe in what you're doing to help you sell it, because often if you don't have representation, you're on your own. You're on your own, and there's only so much you can do on your own. So you need people to gather around you and support it and help you market it. So there's a lot of marketing, and other than marketing, some, just happens. Once you find yourself in the circuit for a while. I've been touring for 4 years now. And once you find yourself in the tour circuit, then you can count on a little bit of favor. People say, you played here last time, you can play again.
It now gives you credibility.
Exactly. And they know what your product is. Because initially you're just marketing and sending videos and all this. Everything is really edited and made to look clean and good. But it's up until they see your live performance that they can really gauge what you are.
They're like, okay, this one can come next year, or we can recommend her for a different concert.
Yeah. And often when you're so new, like for me, I still consider myself to be a newbie, because even though I tour every year, it's really short periods of time. It's 1 month in a year, whereas West Africans are touring all year.
Wow.
And they're touring all around the world. So 1 month out of 12 it's still little, but it's still good enough to get you in through the door. And once people start to hear you, and the audience, the festivals are able to see what the response is from the audience, and then they put you in the right spot for you. It's also not about always headlining. It's about being in the right spot, where people actually feel you and get your music.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how important is mentorship in the creative space? And have you had good mentors? And would you be interested in also mentoring younger artists coming?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been in the game for 15 years, but I've only been in the touring international scene for 4.
Yeah,
so really it's very young.
Yeah.
I would say that even when you break through, my experience that it's like you're almost starting again. Because the audience that you build here is not the audience that I'm now talking to and building out of Kenya. It's a completely different demographic. And so you have to learn that demographic. And this demographic internationally is very knowledgeable. So this is why you also have to upgrade your art, because they see through the cracks and all this. So if your product is not tight, It really is. It's easy to see, and also the people on the platform that you share the platform with, are also very developed because they've been touring for years and years, and their bands have been playing together forever. So there's a lot of things that can put you at a disadvantage, but the advantage is that you have a unique product. So once you're unique and you're different from the others, then there's of course always space for you. You're not really competing with the others, you're just offering something else. And so mentorship of course is important, because once you're in a new territory, you need someone to show you the ropes. I haven't really had a musical mentor. You need someone who is in the industry as a musician.
Yes,
who knows what they're doing, who can help you hone that talent. But I've had a lot of support from people who love music, who know music like the back of their hand. They're not musicians per se, but they know music and are interested in making this music known also. As far as me mentoring others, I would like to, but I feel it's a bit premature at the moment, because I have experience, but I feel it's still not enough. I would like to also gather more experience and really solidify what I'm doing before I say now I'm the expert at carrying the rest of the world.
You are an expert. There's so much knowledge you have. I'm sure there'll be like someone who's just like, please teach us, how did you navigate this particular problem that they had, especially I think for the very beginning, the ones who are just starting out. Anyway, we'll talk more on that. There'll be some workshops we might work on.
Oh cool, that would be nice. That would be really good.
In your career, have you faced rejection, and how did you deal with it at any point?
I think you always face, first, number one, rejection comes from you. It does, because as much as you hone your skills and all this, there's always that insecurity of, is it going to measure up? Is if I now place it next to this big giant in the music industry, can I fit? Can I compete? So the number one criticism and rejection I feel has come from me internally, and me having to deal with imposter syndrome, saying, okay, that giant is there. How do I get there? What do I do? I have no help. How do I navigate? And then, of course, in the industry, people will always look and say, once you're trying to elevate and go from this, you're jumping this stair to the next, there's always loopholes, There's what do you say, like you have to dot the I's and cross the T's and all that. There's a lot of details that you may have missed when you jump from this step to the next. And so rejection might come from there, because they say, here we deal with the creme de la creme. And maybe you're not there yet, but and maybe I've never really heard that directly, but sometimes you can read in between the lines. Though I don't take that as a bad thing. Because you need to go out there so that people give you feedback. Otherwise you're performing in your bathroom, it's just you in your room and it's comfortable there.
Very comfortable.
So you need to get out there and hear these hardcore responses, so that it pushes you in the right spot, and then you can elevate. For me, it's the only way to elevate. You must hear this feedback so that you can go the next level.
So life as an artist, how do you manage to maintain balance with, in yourself, and also with like family life and just in general? How do you maintain that balance?
Wow, balance is a big word to use, because who is balanced? I don't know. I look in my family, we always say everyone is a little mental, because you're like, that guy, he looks so together, but apparently he's not. When you see, sometimes I know maybe you've had this experience where you follow someone for a while, and they always looked so together, and then all of a sudden, you're like, is this the same person that we've been seeing, rumors or something? There's always a crack that shows itself, and you're like, even him is not together the way he's pretending to be. We're all the
winging
same.
it.
We're all just winging it. Life is what it is. You'll get those balls thrown at you, and you just either catch them or throw them back. You decide what you do with the ball that's thrown. So balance for me is a big word to use. I just do what I can every day. I use what I have, and it's a bit spiritual sometimes. I think of a story in the Bible where Moses had to lead these Israelites out of slavery. These Israelites, what did the Israelites?
It was the Israelites.
Out of slavery in Egypt. And he felt that he didn't have what it took. He was not a good speaker. He didn't have magical powers.
Yeah.
He was just a random guy who got used. But the magic came when God told him, just use what's in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Just use what's in your hand. You don't have to be as eloquent as Barack Obama or the Barack Obama of then. You just do you, use what you have, but you'll see that the magic happens when you use what you have.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so what's next for Nina? What can we say? What can we expect next from you?
So now I go on tour. This once this album dropped, I would like to do a series of live performances in a tour format.
Mm-hmm.
So that means playing back-to-back shows in different places and exposing people to the content of this album.
Mm-hmm. Is that internationally, or do you also have some local shows planned?
So last year I did quite a lot of shows here, but this round it won't be possible. So I'll do one show at Gecko Cafe on the 15th of June, which is next Saturday,
Yay.
7 p.m.
Yay!
Can you come? I hope you can.
I'll
be there.
come. For sure, I'll come.
Fantastic.
I'd love to come for that.
Great.
So definitely I'll be there.
Okay.
And I recall like when you used to come for it was Rhythm and Spoken, I used to host a poetry event, and Nina was one of the guests who used to come and perform. And there was this one lady who came and she was like clutching my arm. She's like, she's so good. Oh my
that's
gosh,
so
she's
sweet.
like India Ree. Like she was in love. And I was like, yes, this is our homegrown talent. I was feeling very,
Yeah, well,
I know
that's so
her.
sweet.
Let me come and introduce you. And of course, you're very gracious. So I do feel like your music, I'd really like to see it get to that. It's already at that level to me. So
Thank you.
But I feel like you will, do a lot more, and we can't wait to see where that will take you.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was Nina Ogot, and you can stream her latest album, Ukumbu.ke, aka Ukumbuke, on Spotify Music, Apple Music, Amazon, and many other streaming platforms, depending on the one that you're on. And enjoy, because it's such an amazing album. It'll really bring back memories of growing up in Kenya. And if you're a Gen Z, it'll introduce you to some older songs that you may not have heard before. And as we move on to the news section of the podcast, we'd like to extend our condolences to the friends and family of the late, great Jambi Koikai, Fire Mama, who's been laid to rest today at Langata Cemetery. Jambi Koikai was an endometriosis warrior and a firebrand in the reggae industry. So we're going to observe a short moment of silence for her. And now on to news from Africa. The Recording Academy behind Grammy Awards is extending its support to music creators across the world. So they will be collaborating and partnering with ministries of culture across the Middle East, Africa, countries like Kenya, Rwanda, and South Africa. And, we are hopeful to see what this will bring. Maybe there'll be new categories at the Grammy Awards that actually split African music according to the genres instead of lumping it together with world music. Meanwhile, in Uganda, the University of Cambridge last Saturday decided to return about 39 artefacts, Ugandan artefacts, including tribal regalia, pottery, and other objects, to the Museum of Uganda. But these items are only on loan for 3 years, so it's not really a return home. It's more of like a visit home. And they actually have about 1,500 objects that are currently still in the Cambridge Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, which begs the question, why can't they just be in Uganda where they belong and where they came from? Because we all know these artifacts were not sold to this museum, they were taken. So they have been there for almost a century, and some of them were private donations and others were given by the Anglican missionary that was active around the 1890s in Uganda. So that tells you something. It actually reminds me of the museum scene in Black Panther, if you remember.
Now, tell me about this one.
Also from Benin, 7th century, Fula tribe, I believe.
Nah.
I beg your pardon.
It was taken by British soldiers in Benin, but it's from Wakanda, and it's made out of vibranium. Don't trip. I'm gonna take it off your hands for you.
These items aren't for sale.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
Dark times indeed. And of course, it would be a travesty if we don't touch on the Finance Bill Kenya. And as this is an arts and culture podcast, I am going to touch on parts of this bill that affect creatives directly. So to begin with, there'll be an increase in excise duty on airtime and internet data. That's going to go up. There's also going to be an eco levy on video cameras, SDs, cards, and CDs, as well as TV, radio broadcasting, and sound recording equipment. Then they're also removing a monthly relief from withholding tax on people earning $24,000, which is based on minimum wage. I don't understand it, but basically, if you are getting a gig, we live in a gig economy as creatives, $24,000 for a gig, it's going to be taxed. And there's also a digital service tax and removal of tax exemption from amateur sports organizations and so much more. Like, this bill it's terrible in all shapes and forms. I mean, here's an example that's not even tied to the creative economy. Cancer treatment will now attract a 16% VAT tax. Like, tell me how that is not diabolical, you know? So let's finish off with this song from Nina Ogot that pays homage to Leonard Mambo Mbotela. If you grew up in the 80s, 90s, Kenya, you know what Leonard Mambo Mbotela likes to say, which is J, hii ni ungwana. So enjoy, have a great weekend, have a great week ahead, and I hope that you have just a restful time. And see you at the next Friday Fresh podcast. I'm your host, Nali Wafula, signing out. Bye.
Siri zetu ngumu kusitiri, inatubidi tuchukue tahadhari. Je, ni ungwana? Wapendana wazozana faragani, kesho yanatapaka mitandaoni. Mie na waulizeni jamani, je, ni ungwana? Wengine wanajifagilia hewani kutushawishi kwamba kwao mambo shwari, ili hali hawana amani moyoni. Je, ni ungwana? Dada, kina mama, je, ni ungwana? Wakubwa wangu, wadogo wangu, je, ni ungwana? Na wauliza wenzangu, je, ni ungwana? kupakiana, tumekuwa kama watu wenye laana. Je, ni ungwana? Wengine wanapitia shinikizo kuiga kama vile wengine walivyo, mwishowe wajitia kwenye matatizo. Je, ni ungwana? Nauliza wenzangu, je, ni ungwana? Kina mama